that, we got to talk about the breaking news that just dropped yesterday. Dak Prescott signed a contract extension back to the Cowboys. 4 years, $160 million, $126 million guaranteed. For the first 3 years, the contract is set to give him $42 million a year. Lots of stuff going on. But first, Jacob, what is just your initial reaction to that insane, development?
So I understand, Josh, that this is a family-friendly podcast, so I'm going to do my best to censor myself. My first thoughts exactly, I believe, were F, 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 F and B, F and S, F.
Can you explain why? Can you explain why?
Because I knew exactly what that meant for the rest of the NFC East. The fact that Dak was coming back for 4 years. It's 4 years. Here's the numbers: 4 years, $160 million total. It's $128 million guaranteed and a $66 million signing bonus, which is the most in NFL history, which is one-upping Russell Wilson's signing bonus when he got his contract, which was $65 million.
Wow.
Here's what this means. First of all, for the Cowboys, they get their quarterback for the next 4 years. We can finally stop talking about Dak Prescott. We've been talking about him and his contract and his franchise tags for the last 18 months, quite literally. And it's finally over. We can stop talking about it. Thank God, because as a Giants fan, the last thing I want to be hearing about is Dak Prescott and his contract. So we can finally stop talking about that. And what we can start talking about is this. Dak Prescott currently is getting paid for a lot of money in loose terms. But he's in the ballpark of like top 2 or top 3 monetarily wise quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's behind Patrick Mahomes. He might be in front of Deshaun Watson. He might be behind him. I'm not sure where he lies, but he's being paid right now like a top 5 quarterback in terms of money. And I'm going to tell you right now, Josh, it is hard for me to put Dak Prescott in a list of top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC right now.
Right.
I could tell you definitively that Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and there was a fourth. I need to pull up the standings, but I can't tell you definitively that he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFC,
right?
In the conference by itself.
No.
You could make the argument that he is maybe a better quarterback than, I think, on the fringes. I've got Kyler Murray and Matt Ryan as sort of the maybe. But as it stands, I mean, I would take Russell Wilson over Dak. I would take Tom Brady over Dak. I would take Aaron Rodgers over Dak. I would probably take Matthew Stafford over Dak as well.
Okay. And
that would sort of be my top 4. You could make an argument that Matt Ryan or Kyler Murray is 5 and, the other one is 6. You could also make an argument for Dak being in one of those spots. But right now, there is a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott to perform in the next 4 years.
Yep.
Because if he doesn't, this is going to be a failure of a signing for the Cowboys.
Yeah, so basically everything you just said, I mostly agree with, but I'll get to, kind of that topic in a second. Obviously, once you take this contract, there's a lot of expectations that are going to come with it. That's just reality. Like you said, you were talking about, comparing his contract to other quarterbacks. It goes Patrick Mahomes on a per year basis, Patrick Mahomes with $42 million a year, and then there's Dak. That's it. Dak Prescott is now, averaging the second highest amount of salary per year as a quarterback in the NFL. That's insane. And I know the quarterback market is obviously just going to keep increasing. Also, before we get into the whole Dak conversation, this makes Patrick Mahomes just look even more like just a genuine person. Like the fact that he took his contract, like everyone was talking about the $500 million contract, the $500,000 contract. It's really a bargain. Like it's really a bargain, giving that Dak Prescott, literally 1 year after Mahomes takes his contract, has virtually the same amount of money as Mahomes. Like it's crazy on a per year basis, obviously. But obviously, let's go back to Dak. You were talking about comparing him to the NFC quarterbacks, which I think is a relevant conversation. I would agree with almost everything you said. I would take Russell Wilson over him. I would take Tom Brady over him. I would definitely take Kyler Murray over him. I think you're way too low on Kyler. And then I'm obviously blanking on a couple other people, but obviously Dak Prescott is barely a top 5 quarterback in his own conference. His own conference. It's just, and sure, do you want to lock him up for the future? Fine. If you really believe in Dak, go for it. But when you sign your quarterback to this amount of money, Jacob, the expectation is Super Bowl. Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust now every single year. Every single year. And obviously, it's probably not going to matter. Dak is also coming off a season-ending injury. Like, it's just, I mean, fair play to Dak for getting the money because this has obviously been a story for the last 2 or 3 years. But it's just, as a Cowboys fan, it's just, I don't know how you really feel about this. There's so many different sides to this, this topic.
Here's how I want to look at it. And the only reason, I'll go back to Kyler Murray for just 1 second. The only reason I would make an argument for Kyler Murray over Dak Prescott or vice versa is because Kyler Murray has yet to prove anything to me.
Okay.
As a quarterback. Dak Prescott has gone to the playoffs multiple times. Granted, he hasn't won a playoff. Or maybe he has. But he's won the division. He's gone to the playoffs. He is a phenomenal leader inside the locker room and on the field, and that was evident when he was gone. And I think Kyler Murray hasn't shown me enough to make a substantial argument. Kyler Murray's very talented, and he's going to be very talented in a couple years. But as of right now, what he's done right now, it's not enough for me to make a compelling argument. But I want to go to the quarterbacks in the NFC, particularly the other 5 that I named, which was Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford. Here's the deal. Dak Prescott is 27. I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to say that Dak Prescott, his contract is done in 4 years when he's 31 years old. Tom Brady's 43. Aaron Rodgers is 37. Matt Ryan's 35. Russell Wilson is 32. Matthew Stafford is 33. Most, if not all of these guys are going to be either out of the league or obsolete by the time Dak Prescott's contract is over.
Okay.
I'm looking particularly at Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Ryan because they are in their either mid to late 30s or in their 40s. They're going to be gone or obsolete. So the expectation for me is not Super Bowl just yet. I think the expectation for me is to get to the Super Bowl for Dak Prescott.
I can't accept that though. I gotta cut you off. I can't accept that. Like when you pay, like you can't pay someone $40 million a year or even more than that and say you can't say that getting to the Super Bowl is the expectation. That's not acceptable. Like when you go all in like this. And besides, everyone wants to talk about how the Cowboys have all this offensive talent. And, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup's a nice piece. They always have a pretty solid offensive line. You have to produce. Honestly, I don't. I mean, it's hard to talk about Super Bowl expectations when you're talking about the Cowboys. But now that this contract is official and happening, I'm sorry, that's the only way I can see this contract being justified.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. I think the expectation is to get out of the NFC first and foremost. Get by those guys that are very good and on their way out. Get by them first, and then we'll talk about him winning a Super Bowl because I think that's the next step.
Okay.
I'm not putting that out of the question at all. I'm saying get there first, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But we saw with the Falcons, I'll use them as a prime example, but there have been other examples of this, that a top-heavy team, and I say top-heavy meaning they have a very good offense or a very good defense, and they are incredibly lacking in the counterpart. With the Falcons this year, they had a very good offense. I mean, they were scoring 30, 40 points a game, but their defense failed to produce, in critical times. And the same can be said about the Cowboys. You mentioned Dak Prescott now has his contract. He's locked up for 4 years. Ezekiel Elliott is locked up. Amari Cooper is locked up. Michael Gallup, you said, is a good piece. CeeDee Lamb has been very good for them. They need to fix the offensive line, but I think there's still reliable parts for them to use there. But if they fail right now to get to the NFC Championship and win the NFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl, it is no longer on Dak Prescott, I believe. I believe it's on the defense, and I believe it's on Jerry Jones at that point. We're going to look at Jerry Jones. We're going to look at Mike McCarthy and how good of a coach he was, and we're going to look at the defense, and we're going to see if they stepped up to the plate. Numbers that Dak Prescott put up before he got hurt in his first game against the Giants. He was putting up phenomenal numbers. I think he led the league in passing yards through week 7, and he hadn't played 2 games in a row. He was putting up such great numbers. Okay. It's not his fault, I don't think.
Well, here, okay.
Obviously,
let me go for a second. So, okay. The stat thing that you literally just talked about, that's a little bit inflated. Those were games where the Cowboys had fallen behind like by I think at least 20 and almost at least 2 of them, and Dak had to save them against I think terrible defenses. I can't remember the games exactly, but a lot of those stats came in garbage time. That's the main point. And then I think you make a really great point about the defense. The defense got slightly better as the year kind of dragged on for the Cowboys. But why not spend more money there? Like seriously, because as much as people want to hate on the Cowboys' offense pieces, which I still don't think are amazing, but I think they're very solid. Why not go out and get an elite pass rusher? Why not go out and get a lockdown corner or try to draft one? I mean, they still could, but I just feel like there's other pieces that the Cowboys are in more need of. And then to kind of go off, keep talking about the NFC, quarterbacks and all that. I've always kind of said that I've never seen Dak Prescott as a true top 10 quarterback. I think he's borderline, and I definitely don't see him as a top 5 quarterback. And also, I'm going to ask you just one question, Jacob, and just answer for me. Name me one thing that Dak Prescott does on the field that's elite. I just want to hear one thing that Dak Prescott does on the field that's elite.
I could make an argument for leadership.
That would be mine too.
That's not really a football quality.
That would be mine too. That was the only one. That was the only one that first came to my mind. He's not an elite thrower. He's decent in the short ball game, but he's not. I wouldn't say he's top tier. He's definitely not top tier in the deep ball game. He's mobile, but I feel like he's actually not even mobile enough. I mean, it's just. I feel like everything surrounding this conversation the past 3 years. It's just been you're paying the King's ransom for average play, or slightly above average play, and I don't see it working out. I feel like the expectations now are even more for the Cowboys, and we if you know NFL history, you know how the Cowboys perform when they have expectations, and it's not very well. How's it going, guys? And thank you so much for reaching into this video. If you're interested in more content, be sure to go subscribe, turn on push notifications, all that good stuff. Also, I'll leave links to my Instagram and Twitter up here above. And also, be sure to go follow the podcast. That is where the bulk of my content comes from. I upload to all the major podcast providers, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. I upload to it all. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.